Welcome back. Over the last 10 lessons, we've built a comprehensive picture of how memory works, how it forms, how it encodes, how it retrieves, how it fails, how it creates false memories, how forgetting is natural but also biased. Today, we're doing something different. Today, we're answering the question you've probably been asking since part 1. How can I make my memory better? Not with supplements, and not with brain games that don't work. With science-backed techniques that actually improve recall for students, for professionals, for anyone who wants to remember more. Let's get started. Part 1. Metamemory, knowing what you know. Before we talk about memory techniques, we need to talk about metamemory. Metamemory is your knowledge about how your own memory works. It's the executive control of learning, the difference between effective learners and passive ones. Active learners monitor their understanding. They ask clarifying questions. They adjust their strategies when something isn't working. They don't just study, they think about how they're studying. Example, the professional learning new software. A marketing manager, David, needs to learn a new analytics platform. He has used similar software before, but this one is more complex. His ease of learning judgment. I've used Google Analytics, so the basic concepts will transfer. But this platform has advanced features I've never seen. The tutorial says it takes 10 hours to master. Given my background, I can probably do it in 6. The active learner's response. David schedules 2 3-hour blocks over 2 days. He plans to focus first on familiar concepts, then tackle the advanced features. He books a colleague's time for questions about the difficult parts. The inactive learner's failure. Another manager, Sarah, assumes it will be easy because she's good with computers. She dives in without planning, gets frustrated, and gives up after 2 hours. She never learns the platform properly. Why this matters? David's accurate judgment led to effective planning. Sarah's overconfidence led to failure. Metamemory is not abstract, it's practical. Part 2. Mnemonic Structured Memory Aids. Now let's talk about mnemonics. Some people think mnemonics are tricks or gimmicks. They're not. Mnemonics are structured applications of core memory principles, attention, organization, association, and retrieval cues. They work by forcing deep, meaningful processing. They take arbitrary information and weave it into something memorable. The Method of Loci, the Memory Palace. This is one of the oldest mnemonic techniques used by ancient Greek orators to memorize speeches. And it works brilliantly. How it works: you mentally associate items to be remembered with specific, familiar physical locations, rooms in your house, landmarks on a familiar walk, stations on your commute. You visualize a journey through these locations, placing vivid mental images of each item at a stop along the path. To recall, you retrace the mental journey and see the items. Example, the best man's wedding speech. James is the best man at his brother's wedding. He needs to remember 5 key points for his toast. First, how he and his brother met the bride. Second, a funny childhood story about the groom. Third, how the groom changed after meeting the bride. Fourth, advice for a happy marriage. Lastly, the toast itself. The Memory Palace. James uses his current apartment, a place he knows perfectly. Placing the images. Entryway. He imagines his brother and the bride standing in the entryway, but they're both wearing ridiculous oversized wedding veils. His brother trips over the veil as they enter. This is how they met. Living room couch. He pictures his brother as a 10-year-old sitting on the couch, but he's covered in spaghetti sauce from a food fight. His face is red with tomato sauce. This is the funny childhood story. Coffee table. On the coffee table, he sees a butterfly emerging from a cocoon. But the butterfly has his brother's face, and the cocoon has the bride's face painted on it. This is how the groom changed. Kitchen table. A large book titled The Secret to a Happy Marriage is open on the table. On one page is a giant heart, on the other, two hands shaking. This is the advice for a happy marriage. Refrigerator. The refrigerator door is covered with champagne bottles, each one popping its cork and spraying bubbles. A sign above reads "Cheers." This is the toast. The retrieval. During the speech, James mentally walks through his apartment. At each stop, he sees the image and recalls the point. He delivers a confident, well-structured toast without notes. Why it works. The method ensures he doesn't forget any points and delivers them in the intended order. The images make each point vivid and emotionally resonant. Learning the method of loci for the first time. A university student, Maria, hears about the method of loci. She decides to try it for her upcoming presentation on climate change. The initial effort, the paradox in action. Step 1. Maria must first create and memorize her memory palace. She chooses her childhood home and mentally walks through it repeatedly until she can visualize every room in perfect order. This takes 30 minutes. Step 2. She must then create vivid images for each of her 10 presentation points and mentally place them at each location. She spends another hour crafting bizarre, memorable scenes. Step 3. She practices walking through the palace, retrieving each image and translating it back into her presentation points. Another 30 minutes. Total upfront time, 2 hours just to set up the mnemonic. The payoff. Maria delivers her 20-minute presentation entirely without notes. She flows smoothly from point to point, never losing her place. A month later, a friend asks about her presentation. Maria can still recall all 10 key points in order. The memory palace is still intact. A year later, preparing a different presentation, she can reuse the same palace with new images. The initial investment continues to pay dividends. The paradox resolved. Maria spent 2 hours up front, but she saved countless hours of rehearsal time, delivered a better presentation, and retained the material long-term. The initial effort was not extra work, it was strategic investment. Part 3. Narrative stories. The brain loves a story. Another powerful mnemonic technique is the narrative story. Research by Bauer and Clark in 1969 showed that while immediate recall may be similar to rote learning, long-term recall of multiple lists is far superior when using narrative stories. Why? 'Cause stories have structure, beginning, middle, end. They have causality, this happened because of that. They have characters. The brain is wired for narrative. Example: memorizing historical dates. A student, David, needs to remember 10 historical events and their dates. 1066, Battle of Hastings. 1215, Magna Carta. 1492, Columbus reaches America. 1776, Declaration of Independence. 1789, French Revolution begins. 1865, U.S. Civil War ends. 1914, World War I begins. 1929, stock market crash. 1945, World War II ends. 1969, moon landing. The narrative story. William the Conqueror sailed to England in 1066 and won the Battle of Hastings. But the English nobles were unhappy and forced King John to sign the Magna Carta in 1215, limiting royal power. Centuries later, Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492, discovering America. Inspired by freedom, the American colonists signed the Declaration of Independence in 1776. The idea of liberty spread to France, where the French Revolution began in 1789. But freedom came at a cost. The U.S. Civil War ended in 1865, reuniting a divided nation. Europe then plunged into chaos as World War I began in 1914. After the war, the stock market crashed in 1929, leading to depression. The world united to fight tyranny, and World War II ended in 1945. Finally, humanity reached for the stars, landing on the moon in 1969. The retrieval, David retells the story. Each event is connected to the next by cause and effect. The dates are embedded in the narrative. He remembers not just isolated facts, but a coherent historical sequence. Part 4: Rhymes and Rhythm Stickiness Through Sound. Sometimes the simplest mnemonics are the most effective. Rhymes and rhythm create a predictable structure that makes information easier to recall and protects against errors in order. Example: in 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. The rhyme: in 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. How it works: the rhyme links the date 1492 with the event. The rhythm makes it memorable. The image, ocean blue, adds visual association. Real-world application: a student taking a history test needs the date of Columbus's first voyage. They mentally recite the rhyme and instantly recall 1492. Why it works: the rhyme creates a strong association between the number and the event. The rhythm makes it sticky. Example: my very educated mother just served us 9 pizzas. This classic acrostic helps remember the planets in order from the Sun. Might equals Mercury. Very equals Venus. Educated equals Earth. Mother equals Mars. Just equals Jupiter. Served equals Saturn. Us equals Uranus. 9 equals Neptune. Pizzas equals Pluto. How it works: the sentence creates a vivid, slightly absurd image, a mother serving pizzas. The absurdity makes it memorable. Real-world application: a student taking an astronomy quiz needs the planets in order. They mentally recite the sentence and extract each planet from the first letters. Why it works: the sentence provides order and retrieval cues. The image adds visual memory. The rhythm helps. Part 6: External memory aids cognitive prostheses. Sometimes the best memory technique is not to use your memory at all. External memory aids, sometimes called cognitive prostheses, are practical tools that offload memory demands, especially for prospective memory, remembering to do something in the future. Alarms, sticky notes, leaving an object in a conspicuous place. These are not cheating. They are smart. Example: the alarm on your phone for medication. An elderly man, Robert, must take blood pressure medication twice daily, at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. He often forgets, especially when his routine changes on weekends. The external aid: Robert sets a recurring alarm on his smartphone labeled "Take Pills." The alarm goes off at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. every day. He keeps his pill bottle next to his phone charger. Why it works: external timing: he doesn't need to monitor the clock. Redundant cue: the alarm sound plus the label ensures he knows why it's ringing. Consistent pairing: the pill bottle's location near the phone creates a habit loop. Part 7: The Cognitive Interview, a technique for remembering events. Now, what about remembering events that already happened, like where you put your keys or what happened at a meeting or even witnessing a crime? Psychologists have developed a structured method called the cognitive interview. It's based on how memory actually works, and it dramatically improves recall. The core strategies. First, reconstruct context. Mentally reinstate the environmental and emotional context of the event. Second, report everything, do not edit. Report all details, even seemingly trivial ones. Third, change order. Recall the event in different sequences, backwards, forwards, from the middle. Fourth, change perspective. Try to recall the event from the viewpoint of another person present. Example, finding lost keys. A woman, Priya, realizes she has lost her house keys. She remembers having them this morning but cannot recall where she put them. Ineffective recall, what most people do. She thinks, where did I put my keys? I don't know. I've checked my bag and pockets. They're gone. She gives up and starts searching randomly. Cognitive interview approach. Step 1. Reconstruct context. Priya closes her eyes and mentally walks through her morning. I woke up at 7. I went to the bathroom. Then I came to the kitchen and made coffee. I remember picking up my keys from the bedside table. I had them in my hand when I came to the kitchen. Step 2. Report everything. I put the coffee mug down. I was also carrying my phone. The keys were in my left hand. I remember the sun was bright through the window. I was thinking about my first meeting. I put down the mug and then I think I also put down. She remembers a trivial detail. She was annoyed by a notification on her phone. Step 3. Change order. She tries recalling backwards from the last time she definitely had them. I last remember having them when I walked into the kitchen. Before that, I was in the bedroom. After the kitchen, I went to the front door to put on my shoes. I don't remember having them then. So they must be in the kitchen. Step 4. Change perspective. She imagines watching herself from the corner of the kitchen. I see myself standing at the counter. I put down the mug with my right hand. My left hand. I'm reaching for something on the counter. There's a stack of mail there. I think I put the keys on top of the mail. The result. Priya opens her eyes, walks to the kitchen counter, and finds her keys under a piece of mail she moved aside. The mental reinstatement of context revealed the hiding place. Why it worked. By reconstructing the sensory and emotional context, reporting trivial details, changing order, and shifting perspective, Priya accessed details that were encoded but not consciously available. Part 8. Chunking, the expert's secret. Finally, let's talk about chunking. This is the process of grouping individual pieces of information into larger, meaningful units. It drastically reduces the load on working memory. Experts in any field, chess masters, cardiologists, poker players, don't have generally better memories. Instead, they possess highly organized knowledge structures that allow them to perceive and remember complex patterns as single chunks. Example, the poker player's hand reading. A professional poker player and a novice watch a hand unfold. The novice sees 2 cards on the table, 3 community cards. Individual cards, ace of spades, king of hearts, etc. The pro sees top pair, good kicker, but there's a flush draw on board. Villain's betting pattern suggests he's on the draw. Pot odds justify a call. The chunking explanation. The pro chunks the cards into meaningful categories: hand strength, draw potential, opponent range, pot odds. Each chunk contains multiple pieces of information, cards, betting history, player tendencies, organized into a single concept. This allows the pro to process far more information than the novice without exceeding working memory. Why, the novice must remember each card and calculate odds from scratch. The pro retrieves precompiled chunks like flush draw and pot odds 3-to-1 from long-term memory, using working memory only for integration. Conclusion: practical takeaways. So, let's bring this together into practical advice you can use starting today. 1. Develop your metamemory. Before you study, assess difficulty. While studying, check your understanding. After studying, evaluate your mastery. Know what you know and what you don't. 2. Use mnemonics. Memory palaces for speeches and sequences. Narrative stories for lists and facts. Rhymes for dates. First letter mnemonics for ordered information. These are not tricks, they are applications of how memory works. 3. Offload when you can. External aids, alarms, sticky notes, reminders are not cheating. They free your mind for what matters. 4. When you need to remember a past event, use the cognitive interview. Reconstruct context. Pour everything. Change order. Change perspective. It works for lost keys and for witnesses. 5. Build chunks. Organize information into meaningful patterns. That's how experts think. That's how you can think too. Your memory is not fixed. It is not something you're stuck with. It is a skill, and like any skill, it can be trained, improved, and mastered. The techniques we've covered today are not complicated, but they require intention. They require practice. They require you to think not just about what you're learning, but how you're learning it. Thank you for joining me on this 11-part journey through memory science. We've covered formation, encoding, misconceptions, retrieval, practical improvement, unconscious influences, false memories, forgetting, and now enhancement. Be curious. Be intentional. And remember, the head remembers what it does. See you next time.